Local Women Magazine presents Local Women Podcast, the show for things that matter.
Welcome back to the Local Women Business Podcast. I am so excited to have my guest with me today. I still can't believe she's actually here. And on the way down the road this morning, my husband said to me, "Are you actually winding me up? Is she actually coming on?" So I was so excited to say that I have Caroline McKenna from A County Down Under and so many more things with me today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I feel honoured to be here.
It actually feels crazy now saying Caroline from A County Down Under because it's so much more than A County Down Under now.
There's so many times where I'm like, do I change the name? Do I not? But I still do a lot of work with recruiting people for Australia. So I'm like, it's who I started out as, so we stay with A County Down Under. But sometimes people come up to me and say, "Are you A County Down Under?" And I'm like, "I'm Caroline." But call me that if you want.
And why did you go initially with the name A County Down Under? I have read little bits and watched little snippets from podcasts in the past, but tell everybody listening, why did you go with that name rather than your own name at the outset?
There's a couple of reasons to begin with. I was a full-time teacher, so there was kind of a lot of, you had to be so careful with social media and not being on social media or have a public profile. So even on the front of the cover of my A County Down Under cover, the first cover was with my back to me, like, so you couldn't see who it was. So it was like the back of me looking out at the beach, and a lot of the things I was posting was kind of to go under the radar, so that my kids couldn't Google me. I was working in Sydney at the time, and they all had their laptops out and they would just Google everybody. So I was like, they won't be able to find my name. And the second reason was that A County Down Under is to kind of reflect the life in Australia is very much like another county down under. It's a home from home. And that's how I ended up staying there for so many years. So it was to try and show so many expats that this is, you know, why we're here, and to give an overall summary of what the podcast would be about.
Amazing. And I have been following you from the days that you were in Australia, which is crazy because it feels so long ago now. Like, the amount that you've done from you came home is absolutely crazy. So let's go back a bit. So you graduated from teaching, and am I right, you went to England first of all, and then that led you to Australia?
Yeah, I taught in England for a year, had an awful year teaching. It was more behavioural management than teaching, and I got about 6 months into the job and I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I feel like sometimes we aren't our own best friends in Ireland here, where we sell teaching as a vocation, but in selling it as a vocation, we're selling it as you need to give up all of your life in order to serve others. And it became just a really miserable treadmill of working late nights, feeling this guilt every weekend where I was trying to have a couple of hours off, and I felt like I have so much I should be doing with school, just constantly feeling on edge. And I felt like at 22, I had a bit of a midlife crisis where I was going, this is all I've ever wanted to be, and I don't think I want to do this anymore. So I booked Australia, and back then there was no social media the way there is now. Like, all I had to refer to was Home and Away and Neighbours. I had no idea, but I just wanted to travel some more. I just wanted to escape. So I just planned on going away for 6 weeks. I had a return ticket, and when I got out there, with no one to go with, I went completely by myself. And this is the girl who couldn't get a bus to Belfast by herself. I never got that return flight, and 7 years on, I became an Australian citizen and planned on never returning. But with the pandemic, I was stuck there for 3 years because I was considered as an Australian citizen. And it just made me reflect on life. I was now in my 30s. You know, I've been in Australia a very long time. And I thought, I just want to go home and see family and spend some quality time with them. And when I returned, it was just meant to be for a year, to see my first niece, you know, kind of in her first year. And I just saw a real change in Ireland. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I could live the life that I'm living in Australia that makes me very happy here. The things that I love to do are getting up early, getting a coffee, working out, meditation, breath work, just being around good people. And I was like, maybe that's actually the key to life. It's not about where you are. And that's where my kind of slogan came, happiness is not a postcode. So I wanted to test it out. And I've been here for 3 years now, unexpectedly.
Crazy.
Yeah. I go back every year to Australia. I'm heading back in a few weeks, but I've ended up doing things I didn't intend on doing and opened businesses instead. So retired as a teacher.
And I actually remember my brother headed off to Australia a couple of years ago, and I remember he headed out and he was intending on being there for a year, if not longer, maybe even potentially not coming home. And after 6 weeks, I randomly got a phone call on a Thursday afternoon. I will never forget it. And he's very quiet, very, very quiet, typical Irish farmer. And he said, "Can you lift me from Dublin Airport tomorrow at 12? And I genuinely was just so gobsmacked. My reaction was, yeah, no problem. Yeah. And that was the only conversation until we were sitting at the airport to pick him up. And I suppose at the time, whenever he did come home, I remember saying to him about you, and you had been so open and honest about your journey and your time in Australia and how we talk about it to be the escape from reality, that Peter Pan syndrome, it's so phenomenal out there. But you were always really honest that it wasn't as picture perfect. It was fabulous, but not as picture perfect. And I loved that.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I think that was the hardest thing, was to be vulnerable and be honest about it. I did a podcast. That was kind of the intention. It was never to be on social media. I just use social media to advertise the podcast, and I like to be able to hide behind the microphone and anonymity of no one really knowing who it was. But I just said in this 15-minute episode, it's not all it's cracked up to be. And, you know, online you'll see us on Bondi Beach and living the high life, but it's actually you're faced with your truths no matter where you go. If you're unhappy here, you're going to be unhappy in Australia. It might just take a wee while for it to set in. So it was a lot of self-discovery out there and trying to realise, you know, who am I as a person? Who am I outside of the classroom? What do I really want from life? And I think here I've put a lot of emphasis on like the likes of relationships and, you know, getting that permanent job to make my family proud and being able to buy a house and get married early and have kids. But I kind of then got out there and I was like, who am I? And it was a real tough time. And there's a lot of Irish, all expats, we're really still discovering ourselves. And you could spend a couple of years partying, or it can hit you straight away. And there is a lot of people that don't sit with that and they end up leaving very early. And that's what, you know, I say to people, it took me 3 years to settle into Australia. And it was only when I really came into, you know, who I am as a person. And then I felt strong enough to come back home as the Caroline McKenna I was meant to be, not as the one I was kind of being chipped and moulded into here.
No, I love that. And I love your honesty on social media about it. And I think that is something that definitely needs to be praised, because there's not a lot of people that are as brutally honest on social media as what you are. So I love that. When I was telling some of my team members that you were coming onto the podcast today, I found it really funny because their response to me was, oh yes, she owns the Reformer Pilates studio. And I think of you and I think of Caroline that gave up alcohol, Caroline that moved to Australia. I think of all those things. You know, you were a teacher, you headed off out there, but now there's a generation that knows you as Caroline the businesswoman. How does that feel?
It's pretty cool actually, because within this time frame of being on social media, there's no handbook. And as much as I was being vulnerable and honest online, it came with a lot of backlash and a lot of insecurities and fear, and even family members not understanding it. And sometimes I would have to be brave to help other people, but at the same time, it would make me then go to bed that night and be like, what have I done? Why did I do that? Why did I post that? Why did I tell people how I really am? So for a long time, I was Caroline that had her heart broken. That was how the whole podcast came about, you know, you go out here and people see you picture perfect relationships, but you're really each other's family out there. If that all ends, you're not only ending your relationship, but probably your apartment, you're 10,000 miles away from home. So I was Caroline who had her heart broken for a very, very long time. And I kind of ran with that as well, where I just posted about that all the time. Even if I wasn't thinking about the heartbreak 4 years on, I felt like that's all I could post. So I had to come back into like, what is it that I want from this? And with social media, like there's huge opportunities. And when I came home initially for the first full year, I just did content creating, because you can make a very lovely, comfortable life from that. As you know, there's great opportunities. But after a year of doing it, I felt like, this isn't me. Like, I don't want to just stand in front of a camera all day and do my makeup and rely on likes. Like, I don't feel fulfilled at the end of each day. So I felt like I want to think about the next 5 to 10 years. Social media might not be here. You might not be everyone's cup of tea next year. Like, look at the likes of Molly May, who people are trying to cancel, and she's this empire built. So, not that I'm anywhere near Molly May, but I just think, you know, even the highest of the high can be cancelled overnight. But I just thought, right, what is it that I love? And I wanted to come back to education and being around kids and, you know, being able to help them, but not being in the school system. I wanted to focus more on mental health because we're not doing enough of that in school. So that's when I opened Nurturing Minds, which was at the forefront, not only just education, but teaching children how to look after their mental health in every lesson that we teach. So that's how it all started. And I went in like the blind leading the blind. I hadn't a clue what I was doing, but just knew I had a purpose. And now it's kind of taken off as Caroline. I changed just recently on my Instagram. It used to say under my profile podcast, and now it says entrepreneur. And I'm like, I kind of like that better. I feel a bit more respected. So it's cool. I prefer that. I don't want to be Caroline who had her heart broken for the rest of her life.
Definitely not. You're so much more than Caroline who had her heart broken. And how do you find being a business owner?
Well, you and I think that our conversation beforehand it's really nice to hear that it's not just me, but you know, it's just every day is a different day. It is really, really tough. I literally shared last night or the night before on Instagram something that Dana White, the owner of UFC, put up about, you know, people think when you're a business owner, you get this flexibility, you have all this free time, all these people working for you. And he laughed and he said, you know, it's not like that. You work 10 times harder. You work 365 days of the year. There's no Christmas. There's no Easter. People are trying to get you every single day in some manner, and you're putting out fires every day. And that's what it feels like. And I think that's what I find really hard about it. I'm now 2 years into being a business owner, and now owning a couple of businesses that I'm really only coming to terms with being able to just let it go, like situations like somebody not turning up for work, somebody letting you down, difficult customers, being able to cope with that for a long time, really only up until a couple of weeks ago, that would cause me to just go into hysterics and tears, not being able to control the situation, because I came from a teaching background where I had a scheduled timetable every day and knew, you know, when we had Christmas holidays, when we had summer holidays, to not knowing what every day looks like. I've just had to really do a lot of inner work on the let them theory from Mel Robbins. And it is hard when the let them theory is, you know, your mortgage and your life and what your future looks like. You have to just be like, okay, just deal with this now. It's going to be okay. So overall, it's been a huge learning curve, but I also love it. Like, we keep doing it. We keep opening businesses. We're nuts. So it's a roller coaster. I think that's the only way to describe it.
Funny, my mum and dad actually will still to this day make comments about me going back and getting a real job.
Honest to God.
And I have 7 businesses and they will still say, are you going to go back and get a proper job? And I think, probably not anytime soon. But when I try to describe what it is I do, that's the only way I can describe it. I just put out fires every single day.
I think the hardest part of being a business owner is people don't respect your time, in that my friends just think I'm free in the middle of the day for lunch. They're just like, sure, what are you doing? And I'm thinking, you have no idea. There is no off button. There is no... And then when somebody would say to me, so what is it that you do during the day? I can't even put it into words. I'm like, what do I actually do? I actually don't even know how to describe it, because every day is just chaos. But there's something really cool about that chaos. And when it comes together, it's that final product that I think makes you just go, do you know what? I'm a little bit badass. Like, I've done it. And same for you. It's just this kind of, how did I do this? How did we get to this? But it works. And when you see it working and people enjoying your service and people coming back and the loyalty from customers and just even the difference that you've made to someone that day, that's when it's like, yeah, you know, this was worth all of it. But it is hard and it's not for the faint-hearted. And there's a lot to be said about having a paycheck at the end of the week in a normal job.
Absolutely. And I think the hardest part for me in running a business is actually the negativity that comes with it, or the pieces that don't go as well, especially when you've come from, as you say, a job where there's a schedule, you have your to-do list, you make your way through it and things are nice, neat and orderly. Whereas now, even right down to last night, I got a comment under one of my TikTok videos and it was from an individual, and they had found a picture of one of our businesses on my TikTok, and they said that they had a really terrible experience. They were still waiting on a call back 3 weeks ago, and I have got used to it now where I can kind of take it on the chin, move on, not even think anything of it. But that business I actually own with my husband, and he was straight on looking to find the person's name. Had they phoned up, and this person had never actually phoned our business. And it's more for our team members then, because if they see those comments, then they're going to think I'm not working hard enough. It's trying to deal with those situations and not let them get to you, and that is so hard.
It is so hard. Like, I remember Stephen Bartlett once saying, like, when it comes to business, you can't take it personal. But how do you not take it personal when it is you? You've built this from the ground, and it's your livelihood, and it's all of everything that you've put into your business was from you. And it is, like, I remember when I opened Nurturing Minds, I wasn't even open 6 weeks, and a parent that we had tried to be so accommodating to, we were like making a loss out of it, because we were bringing our daughter in on a Saturday because she had horse riding different days of the week, and we were taking her in on a Saturday. I was paying this teacher to come down from Belfast to teach her just so we could accommodate this parent, and she just kept not turning up. And this is, you learn as you go along, take deposits and have things in writing, and all of these things you learn the hard way. But me being naive, I took people's word for it at the beginning. So it was costing me a fortune. And like, I would get messages from her at like 1 o'clock in the morning to say, my daughter won't be in at 8 a.m. But sure, I was in bed. By the time I woke up, the teacher was there. So after several times, I just said, look, I'm really sorry. We just can't keep doing this. And we really love working with your daughter. And, you know, we're really sad to see her go. But if you want in the future, blah, blah, blah. And she went straight online and made a horrible review. And I mean, I was only just open. It was my first review. And she made it personal, like, you know, Caroline's not in this for mental health. She's in it for money. And I thought, she is like, I'm losing money on her, but I was trying to help her. And I was in bits for weeks. For about 6 weeks, I was devastated. There was no talking to me. And I think that the only thing you can take from it is you start to get a bit stronger. It's the worst lesson and it's difficult, but every one of those lessons, it then taught me to put a system in place that we don't take on any clients without a 4-week deposit, so that if they miss that session last minute, then, you know, that's on them, to hold them accountable as well. And it made me put more systems in place. It made me then think, right, I need to get some good reviews to outweigh this bad review. So yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow. But in terms of social media, I mean, I've had my fair share of it. I get it. And to be honest, some of the comments, when I read them, I'm like, that's someone I know, because what they've said is only something that they would know, or they would know about my family. And it is difficult. I'm sure you've seen all of the stuff about Tattle that happened over the last few years, that horrendous website. I hate even saying the name, it makes me feel sick. But there was like this anonymous website that people could just write whatever they want. And it was so damaging to businesses. But I have, I suppose, because I know how much those things are damaging to me, that for some reason I've been able to train my brain in many ways. Some ways I'm not motivated to get out of bed in the morning, but other ways I can sit in cold water for 10 minutes because I've trained my brain to do that. And I've trained my brain to be able to not look at those comments anymore, because I know of the impact that it'll have on me. And it is literally, I just can't look. As much as I'm about to, or I start to read the first two, it's like, don't do it. So I just post and ghost now. I post what feels good for me. I post what I feel holds value to people. And I no longer look for those reassurances. And I think that's what's helped me step away from social media as a full-time job. I used to rely on that as my sole income, but having these businesses means that I don't put all my emphasis in that anymore. If someone doesn't like me on there, well, screw it. I know that I've had a really good day and that these kids have had some really good lessons with us today in Nurturing Minds. So it's weighing it all out. But I mean, I say that, and then one bad comment can absolutely cut you to the bone still. So you're human at the end of the day.
And the comments can be incredibly difficult, whether you are somebody that's putting yourself out in social media, and, you know, we've seen it 100 times before. People will say, oh, well, you put yourself out there, you need to expect it. Or whether you're a business owner and it nearly feels like someone's making a negative comment on your child. Like, I equate my businesses to more children, you know, and it can feel that hurtful and that attacking, which is really tough. You touched there briefly on the fact of, yes, we have businesses, so we have them obviously to make money. We need to make an income from them, but also we have businesses that are there for the greater good. Obviously, Nurturing Minds has an incredible ethos behind it. But you are also entitled to make money. And I think that's something that people in this country really do struggle with. And you said there about that parent making that comment. How do you navigate that? How do you cope with that?
I find that really difficult because I have my social media. I was only saying this quite recently where, like, I do a lot of work with companies and travel the world, and I sometimes find that there's a real sense of, I don't really want to post this, because if a customer sees that I'm in Mexico, they're going to think I'm on their money in Mexico. And it's so weird because I'm not, but like, I'm providing and I'm trying to make money, but there is definitely, you go into business with the passion, the money will follow. And if you're of any way business oriented, you know, the first 5 years, you'd be lucky to make anything other than employ people in your area. Like, that's the way I see it. Nurturing Minds has not been easy, and it has been a slog. And just recently, like, I'm 34 now. I worked in Australia for 7 years. I have an 11-year teaching background. I've worked all my life since I was 12. And recently I bought my dream car for me. And I would never be materialistic, but I'm like, what am I doing all this? Like, I literally don't have a life. I don't have a partner. I'm working around the clock. And I was like, do you know what? I'm going to treat myself. And it's funny, like, I pulled up to my local cafe one day and just got out of the car, had the dog in the back, and someone just stopped me and they went, I need to own a Pilates studio. And I went, what? And he was like, if that's what I need to own a Pilates studio. And I'm only a couple of months in the Pilates studio, and I was thinking, that is not where this money came from. And this is since I was 12, I've been working. But I just thought, why am I even justifying this to someone? Like, why should I? But there's really this mentality of like, who does she think she is? Owning these businesses and flying around the world and traveling business class to Australia. And I mean, I travel Ryanair everywhere else. But, you know, just these things where you're nearly embarrassed to do that. But also, I want to be a role model to younger girls, especially in business, to be like, if I can do it, you can do it. And anyone can live this lifestyle if you choose to. But I also show how hard it is to live this lifestyle, because I'm working every day of the week. I've had to sacrifice love. I've had to sacrifice, you know, family life for myself for now, so that I can get to where I need to get to. Not everybody needs to do that, but I feel like people don't see that side. They say, oh, look at her traveling the world. She's some time of it. And I'm thinking, some time of it? When I'm away on these holidays, I'm still working all the time. On that flight to Australia, 23 hours. For me, I'm like, brilliant. That's 23 hours I can get work done. People don't see that. They think she's having a class time. So yeah. I totally get it. People, they don't want to see you make money. And for a long time with my social media, for the first 4 years of owning a county down under, I was doing all of that with a full-time teaching job, and I was giving everything for free. I was doing free events. I was going to every event to help other people. I was emceeing for free. I was doing absolutely everything and working this full-time job as a teacher to pay for my rent. And then I remember somebody saying something about, I'm sure you're making a killing. And I was like, I don't make a penny off all of these events. And then it was like this epiphany moment where I was like, these people think I'm making money, so I should start. Yeah, and that's when so then I was like, right, well, I'll do an ebook. And then 4 years in, I started making money and being able to put that money as savings that now I invest in my companies. And it's mad. Like, it was just like, oh, they think I'm making money. Well, maybe I should. And that was it. But for a long time, I was so afraid of what people would think. So there was 4 years of not making money that I could have, you know, been in a mansion in LA right now. But
we can only but dream.
Yeah.
One of the bits that I've really struggled with since I put myself out there on social media is nearly having people having a perception of you that you're not as intelligent, or you have success but then you're not working hard enough for it. And I actually recently had an investor make a comment to me that basically over the summer, whenever I'm with my kids, I try to maximise my time with my kids as much as I physically can. But with that, I also, you know, to have the extra time off with them during the day, I'll get up at 6 a.m. and I'll maybe work like 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. before they wake. Or, you know, my husband comes home at 3 and then I work 3 to 8 in the afternoon just to give me that time with them. And that's the lovely part about being self-employed, that I can. But I still obviously want to maximise my time with them in the summer. And they basically made a comment that it maybe didn't suit them that I was having the sweet life because I wasn't getting back to them fast enough, or I wasn't giving them responses. And I think that is the negative with social media, because you are putting yourself out there and you are putting bits online. And it's nearly in some ways made me look less reputable to business owners that are maybe a little bit further down the line than me. Have you had anything similar? How have you found it?
Yeah, I have. When I opened Nurturing Minds, I came online and I put that out there that I was opening this education centre and how beneficial it'll be for children, for primary and secondary, and how we're embedding mental health, and that's something that's really needed in Northern Ireland. And the backlash was like that influencer up the road's opening an education centre, not that teacher is opening an education centre. It was that influencer. And even staff members saying, you know, that people would come to them to try and find out about my business because they follow me online rather than they're interested in my business. You know, is that busy up there? You know, what kind of numbers? And just poking and prodding for the sake of it. So when it came to Alara, I tried a different technique, and I actually launched Alara anonymously. And that was meant to be the plan the whole time. Like I was going to be a very silent business owner. So I'd put it out there, the feelers, the whole of my town was talking about this new Pilates studio. It was funny because people were even saying to me, do you see that new Pilates studio's open? And I was going, no, tell me all about it, you know, thinking, oh God, I don't know if I can hold cover here. And for about 3 months, no one knew, and it was class because there was no pressure on me. There was no, what if she doesn't do well? Hope she doesn't do well, all of this stuff online. And it was brilliant. And then sure, like everything, it got out, and I had to then like say it. And you know, there's a guy that I would be very good friends with. He's a brilliant, very successful business owner. And he said to me, you're a fool. And I said, you know why? And he said, you need to be utilising your social media for these because that is your key, or this is your unique selling point. You know, people are buying not into just your Pilates, but into you. They want to go to Caroline's studio. And I was like, oh God, no, I don't want to do that. And he says, you need to do it. So when it started to become very loud in my town that it was me owning it, I thought, you know what am I ashamed of? Why are people making me feel ashamed that I, the influencer, the word I hate, owns another business? So now I stand really tall and proud and be like, yeah, I do own that. And what have you got to say for it? You know, so for a long time it made me shy away from things. I felt embarrassed, but there's absolutely nothing to be embarrassed about. And it feels loud and it feels like there's a lot of people that are against you, but sometimes it's only 2 or 3 voices. And why should I dictate my life around that? And same for you.
Absolutely. And you know, the difference between someone being a business owner and somebody not being a business owner is the fact that you had the guts, you had the balls to actually go and do it and set it up. And that is the only difference between anybody else in the town that didn't decide to do it, is the fact that you went out there and did it. Something I have been incredibly blessed with is a huge network of people around me that do own businesses, and I can go to whenever I have a question, or if I'm having a bad day, I can pick up the phone and have a rant and a rave or ask questions for someone further down the line than me. Have you got that network around you? How do you find it? I know you talk about your parents. Whenever you came home, you had your mum and dad there, and they were saying leave your phone out of the bedroom, and you know, so that you could drown out the social media voices. And I love that. Have you got that network around you now as a business owner?
I find being a business owner can be incredibly lonely, especially where I'm at in my life, where you know, it's not like I can go home in the evenings and switch off or have kids to distract me. I've got 2 beautiful nieces that sometimes ground me in the chaos. But it has been hard because my situation in itself, for many people coming home from Australia, and I'm sure even for your brother when he did come home, there's a sense of, where do I fit in now? Because this was where I was supposed to be and this is my life. And moving back home to Ireland at 32 was very difficult, because it was like, the way I describe it is like being in a time machine where I feel like I'm still, you know, rocking the base hunter, and not really, but you know, like I'm still thinking that everybody's around and people want to go out for drinks at Christmas and, you know, all the crack. And I came home and it was like I was still Caroline that was 21 that left, and everything had changed, like right down to the Tesco and the people. Like, even I said to Mum, I need to go get a new tax disc. There's no tax disc in my car. And Mum was like, we don't have them anymore. I was like, oh God, the world's changed. So all of these things where I was like, right, I'm completely on my own. So I was trying to like navigate friendships, making new friends, and then coming back home as Caroline from a county down under rather than just Caroline. I was making the wrong friends and people that weren't actually wanting to be my friend. They wanted to be the social media version of me, which is only a very small part of me. And I was dealing with all that. So then I threw myself into work, and that's where I got into the love of businesses. So for a long time there, I felt extremely lonely, and I cried a lot over the last 2 years. My parents both owned businesses together for the last 30 years. They've just retired, and they owned a lot of successful businesses, both in Belfast and Newry, and an embroidery company. And they were brilliant help to me. Like, I couldn't have done it without them. Even just like having an issue with a staff member last night, Dad was like, there's so many times that happened, your mum and I, when we were on family holidays. You don't remember, like, we were in America for 2 weeks and somebody just didn't turn into the shop, and then Dad was like, we had to close the shop for 2 weeks because there was nothing we could do. But you don't remember those things. So they really keep me grounded. But there's a lot as well that has changed since they've left business, in that social media has such a loud presence that they didn't have before, and they find that hard to understand, that marketing's changed. You can't just hand out leaflets now or put up a billboard and hope it gets the same effect. There is one person beside me in Alara who's an amazing guy that I love to just have a counselling session with, and his name's Darren McKibben. He owns Black Box Donuts, and he has been just like a really great shoulder to lean on. We just happen to be passing ships in that, like, I'll be going into the Pilates studio in the middle of the day to do something, and he's going in, and the two of us are putting out fires, and we keep saying to each other, why are we doing this? And we have a little rant and then get about our day. But he's been great because he didn't have any experience in donuts, and people thought he was mad, and he was, you know, in the construction industry. And it just makes me think, okay, so it's okay that I don't have experience in Pilates and I'm opening this Pilates studio, whereas I felt a bit more confident opening the education centre because I had that background. And he was like, just go for it, mute out the noise. So I think if you have one person, it's amazing. My plan is to start going to more networking events, because it's nice to have that person to lean on, but I also want to have friends and circles and relationships with people on my wavelength. Sometimes I feel like friends don't get it, or family don't get it. Even when I'm going away with the girls for a holiday, and you know, they're texting me at like Friday 1 o'clock to say they're clocking off for the day, half day, can't wait to go on holidays. And then when we're on holidays, I'm in the background like taking calls and having to do things, and there's never really a time off. So I feel like sometimes it can be very lonely, and I need to try and push myself to network more. But like, you know, it's sometimes you're thinking, oh, I'd love to go to that, but I actually don't have time to do that either.
That is definitely the hard part. It is actually trying to make the time for it, but there is always something else that you probably should or could actually be doing. From every post that I've seen, from every time that I followed you on social media, I definitely get the vibe that you're not done yet. So have you got a long-term goal? Is there a vision? People say this to me all the time, and I'm thinking, why do I need an end goal? Why do I need a long-term vision? I'm just happy plodding along here, keeping buying shops. How do you feel about that?
I know, I think there's real pressure at home when you sign up to something, or you get a house or the nice car or the businesses, that's you permanently. But I've had a lot of open conversations with my parents recently, and I am a citizen of Australia, and the goal was only ever to be here for a year. This was not part of the plan. So I'm trying to have a real easygoing kind of attitude to it. It's very hard whenever you're like putting a lot of money into these businesses and like creating these beautiful units and putting a lot of time into it, that I'm like, God, could I just give this up? I don't know. But I would like to franchise things out and be able to walk away in about 5 years and move back to Australia. That is the plan. But I don't know, you know yourself, life happens. But I'm trying not to put myself in that position where, because it's very hard. Not only are you trying to run a business in your local area and having eyes on you, but then you have 750,000 people online that's just the ones following you. There's, you know, sometimes those videos, as you know, can reach 1 million, 2 million. There's people watching from all areas wanting to see you fail. And then there's part of me that's like, well, I have to keep this business open because people see that. And if I walk away in 5 years and sell it, people will think, oh, that's because she didn't do well. And every time I have to snap back and be like, who cares? Do you want to move back to Australia? That's your plan, then go for it. So I think I would like to move back to Australia in about 5 years. But I say this and then I go back every year and I'm homesick. So it's a really tough decision. But I try not to put my whole heart into being here forever. I love being able to travel. I love that carefree sense. I'd love to franchise my businesses out, and there's times where, like last year, I'd applied for Dragon's Den. I love Dragon's Den. Do you love Dragon's Den?
Amazing. I really want to do a Belfast Dragon's Den for those in their early 20s to help bring investment into their businesses. That's definitely happening in 2026.
You have to do it. That would be insane. I've loved watching that since I was a kid, and I think that's where my interest in business has come from. But I applied for it last year for Nurturing Minds and thought, sure, this isn't going, like, it's only been in a year in business, and sure, what's different to mine than any other tutoring centre? Again, putting myself down and not being like, well, there's the unique selling point of mental health, and put it out there, applied, and I got through the auditions, and I was due to fly over to Manchester to like go in front of the Dragons, and it fell alongside the time I was at Everest. So I couldn't go. And I was like, God, that might have been, even just to get on the platform so that maybe someone watching might say, that's a business I'd love to invest in, or I'd love to be part of the franchising of this company. So that's the goal, is like to get to those bigger people and franchise out someday. But we'll see. We'll see.
So exciting. Caroline, this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you for just continuing that trend of being so open and honest and just bringing a new dynamic online to what a female business owner is now, not Caroline that had her heart broken all those years ago. For anyone that doesn't follow you, where can they find you on social media?
I'm at A County Down Under, and the podcast is on Apple and Spotify. And yeah, you can just find me on there. I'm usually on talking about something.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Local Women Magazine presents Local Women Podcast, the show for things that matter.